Welcome to Crimepedia. I am your host this week. My name is Morgan. I hope you are having a wonderful day. And with me, as always, is my true crime BFF. It is the lovely Cherry. Hello, Cherry.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good week. Thank you for joining us again. This week is Morgan's case. Mine was last week, and this week we're going to be hearing a good case from him. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been leaving us reviews and 5-star ratings. If you don't want to leave a review, then we understand. But if you do, we'll love you forever. So thank you if you have left us a review. It helps us keep up there in the charts with our little podcast against all the big boys.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just want to thank everyone who has given us some really good feedback in regards to our video Crimepedia Extra episodes that we'll be putting on Patreon.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun so far.
It has been a lot of fun, yeah. Our Crimepedia Extra is good fun. We get to have it's a lot more fun than serious over there. So it's always good if you want to join our Patreon. You can. It's really easy. You can just go to patreon.com and then find us. Just search for Crimepedia, and we will be there.
We will. All right, Sherry. So unless there's anything else, how about we just hop into this week's episode?
Let's go.
The town of Rodeo, California, sits on San Pablo Bay in northwest Contra Costa County. It was here that on a December evening in 1969, a woman reported hearing a scream coming from a neighboring apartment. When the resident of the apartment arrived home, he found the living room in disarray and his girlfriend missing. She would never be seen alive again. This is Crimepedia, and this is The Murder of Leona Roberts. All right, Cherry. Leona Roberts was a 16-year-old from Napa, California, where she lived with her mother and attended Kay's American Beauty College. So at 16, she actually had dropped out of high school, and she decided to just go straight into this beauty college. So she was working on her way to becoming a beautician. Okay. Now, on December 10th, 1969, she began her first day at White Front Discount Store in Pleasant Hills, California, working the part-time shift from 1 to 5 p.m. Outside of work, Leona was dating a 21-year-old named Greg Veo, and she had plans to cook him dinner at his apartment located at 749B Tormey Avenue in Rodeo after her shift. Now, Greg had just moved into the apartment about 10 days prior. At that time, Greg was employed as a barber in Napa and was scheduled to work until 6:30 p.m. At approximately 7 p.m., Greg arrived at an apartment in Rodeo, where he saw Leona's red 1957 Volkswagen parked out front. Greg would state that the lights were off, including the front porch light, and the front door was locked. After knocking on the front door and getting no response, he would walk to the back door and find that it was unlocked. Now, this was unusual, since the back door was always locked. Right inside the door, he saw scuff marks on the wall near the back door. Inside, Greg would find the Christmas tree knocked over onto the couch and the rug bunched up as if someone had been dragged across it.
Oh, no, that must be an awful scene to walk into. Because as soon as you see the Christmas trees over, you're already a bit heightened because you know that the back door's not usually locked. But then when you go in and the rug's like that, his heart must have been thumping in his ears. That must have been horrible.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Especially like because you're expecting Leona to be there. You're expecting her to be cooking dinner.
Yeah.
She had told him earlier in the day, like, hey, I'm going to be over there. Don't be late. Dinner's going to be ready for
Yeah.
you. So he shows up, he
Yeah.
gets there in time, and then he walks into this. Now, a pair of pants that would normally be hung up in the bedroom closet were found lying on the living room couch. Leona's beauty school smock with her name tag on it was also found on the couch. It would later be determined that a black belt belonging to Greg was missing from the house. So, with her smock being there, with her name tag, it was obvious that she had been to the home,
Hmm.
and so she had been there. Greg stated that his last conversation with Leona occurred at 11:30 a.m., so prior to her shift at the store, when she called him to inform him about her plans to go to the apartment after work to cook dinner. Now, during the call, Greg suggested that Leona stop by his parents' house in Crockett to pick up some sauce his mother had stored in the freezer for making spaghetti. With this in mind, Greg attempted to reach his parents' home through phone calls, but unfortunately, there was no response. He would then resort to contacting a relative living nearby and ask them to contact his parents to see if Leona had been there. And being told that she had not been to his parents' home, Greg would begin calling friends in the area to see if anyone had seen or heard from her. He would then begin to drive around the Crockett area in an attempt to locate her. At about 10 p.m., Greg would contact Leona's mother, Eileen, to see if she had returned home. Now, Eileen would tell Greg that she had not been home, and she would become very concerned since Leona had told her that she'd be home around 9 p.m. Now, Leona did have the usual habit of calling home if she would be late, so obviously
Hmm.
to any parent, this would be very worrisome.
Of course.
Greg would then call Contra Costa Sheriff's Office to report her as missing. A deputy from Contra Costa County would show up at scene at 11:30 p.m. to take a report. At 1 a.m., they'd be joined by 2 additional deputies who began canvassing the area for any signs of Leona. Now, early in the investigation, it would be determined that another deputy from Contra Costa Sheriff's Department had been dispatched to the 749B Tormey Avenue apartment in regards to a possible family disturbance. This deputy would arrive on scene at approximately 6:55 p.m. and spoke to Susan Clark, the resident who lived in the apartment above Greg Veo and who had made the call to the sheriff's department. The deputy would then go down to the first floor apartment where he found all the lights were off and the shades closed. After knocking several times at the door to no response, he attempted to open the door but found it locked. Each window to the apartment was also found to be closed and locked. He then went to the back door and, after getting no response to his knocks, found that this door was unlocked and entered the residence. After calling out and receiving no response, the deputy began checking each room for signs of a struggle or foul play, but none were found.
Oh, wow.
He would note a heavy cloud of incense that had been burned in a beer can on the table next to the couch in the living room.
There you go.
The
Incense
room
is
was in.
burning. That means there's trouble.
Mhm.
Usually, when people are burning incense, they're usually trying to cover up the smell of something. So
Of
straight
something,
away,
yeah.
I would be feeling a bit like, whoa, hang on, something's a bit dodgy here, because not a lot of people burn incense anymore. It used to be like in
Mm-mm.
the 90s. It used to be everyone used to do it. But nowadays, if you've got somebody burning stuff, it'd be a bit weird because people don't
Mm-hmm.
usually do it unless you're of like a spiritual nature and you tend to burn it for those reasons. But generally, people don't.
In this situation, they're not. No, in this situation, they're not. Now, I want to make note. He did note there's a heavy cloud of incense, right? Which to me says that someone must have just been there, not too shortly before he arrived on scene, right?
Yeah.
Now, he would also note that the room was in reasonable order, the Christmas tree was not tipped over, and the rug was not bunched up. Leona's smock was noted to have been on the couch,
Okay.
and after determining that the apartment was secure and that there was no indication of foul play, the deputy would finish his investigation and leave without any further action needed. All right?
So let me get this right. So he didn't see anything moved. So it's different to what the
No.
boyfriend said.
Right.
And the
Let's
boyfriend
also pay
didn't
attention.
put it back. Didn't put the rug back.
He did. So he would go, he would state that he would put the tree back up. He would fix the rug. Later on in
Right.
the evening, he had one of his friends come over, and he was trying to explain like what he found, and so he put the tree back over on the couch like it was. He bunched up the
Right.
rug like it was. So he would go and like
Right.
recreate the scene.
Okay.
Now, the other thing I want to make note of is the times, right? So the officer, the deputy, he arrived to
Mm.
the home at 6:55 p.m.
Right.
Greg, he left work between 6:30 and 6:45, and he stated that he arrived about 7 p.m.
So
So these
after
two,
the deputy.
well, that's what he's saying.
That's
But
what he's saying.
the
Okay.
time it's going to take for the deputy to speak to the woman who made the
Yeah.
call, to
Yeah.
get down, knock on the door, to review the house and the order is in. Those two things should have happened at the same time, right? So if
Yeah.
he's arriving
They
at
should have
7
got there
o'clock,
around the
he
same
gets there at
time. Yeah.
6:55. They should have been there same time, but they didn't. They weren't there. So officer
So
never
who's
made note
lying?
of. Would the deputy be lying about when he arrived?
Why would he? Why would he need to lie?
He has no
What's
reason. He has no reason
no?
to lie.
He's got no reason to lie, really.
Yeah. So it's
Okay,
very strange,
interesting.
right?
Yeah, that's really strange.
Now, the deputy who was responding to the missing persons report, so this is the deputy that arrived that evening at 11:30 p.m.
Mm.
He would also question Susan Clark about what she had heard and observed.
Mm.
She would tell this deputy that she heard a female scream 2 or 3 times coming from what she thought was the apartment below her. She then heard a noise as if someone was running up her back stairs trying to get away from someone. Because she had children in the house, she just looked out the door. She did not see anyone in the area, the house, nor did she see any cars moving at that time. 5 to 10 minutes later, she heard the screams. She heard a door slam downstairs. She looked out her door for approximately 5 minutes, and during this time, she saw a blue station wagon driving away. Now, at the time of the screaming, she said that she saw Greg's porch light was on.
Okay, and it wasn't
So
when Greg got home.
it wasn't when Greg got home, and it wasn't when
The deputy was
deputy arrived
Okay.
there. So
Right.
at some point, that light was turned off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The deputy would then speak to next door neighbor Betty Ray. She told the deputy that she went to the store at around 6 p.m. and upon returning, she saw a white male adult, approximately 25 years old, 5'9", 180 pounds, with short blonde hair and a brown jacket and pants, walking back and forth to a blue station wagon.
Oh, so both of them have said blue station wagon. Two separate
Yes.
witnesses. Okay.
Yes. Now she said that when he was doing this walk back and forth,
Yeah.
it was as if he was putting something in it, but she noted that there was nothing in his hands.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now he appeared suspicious and was watching her as she turned her car around. Now she parked her car in front of her house, which was next door to Greg Veo's apartment. The man then pulled the blue station wagon up behind her and then backed it up. As Betty Ray went into her home and closed the door, the car drove away. She looked out and the man was gone. Now, Betty would said that there were two people who owned blue Chevy station wagons who lived on her street, but she knows both of them, and that this car was not one of her neighbors.
And it's not Greg.
And it's not Greg. No.
Okay.
No, it's not Greg. Now, at this point, Greg is obviously a person of interest, and police would ask Greg to take a polygraph test based on some discrepancies between their investigations and the statements that he made.
What's the point? Like, what's the point in making him take a polygraph? If he says, yes, I will, they're like, okay, well, he's willing, but it's inadmissible in court. There's no point. I don't understand why they even bother. Other than to kind of like make him feel like if he says no, then he's at a disadvantage. Like mentally, you'd be thinking, oh God, I've said no, so they're going to think I'm guilty anyway. So I think, I
think they're trying to put pressure.
It's
putting pressure on him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're trying to get him to break. So obviously at this point, they're like, okay, something's not right here.
Yeah.
The story that you're telling us just isn't
doesn't
making
make sense. Yeah.
because we had someone
Mm.
in that apartment and look around. Is it possible? Now, here's the other thing that you got to think about. Is it possible that Greg was wrong with his times and he was actually there
I was just
earlier
about to say that. Yeah.
and but we know that he was at work until 6:30. So that is in fact a case, right? So his alibi that he was at work at the time of when this neighbor heard the screams,
Is
he was
verified.
at work. It
Yeah.
is verified, right?
Yeah.
But is it possible that he got home earlier than he said? He got in, he cleaned up, and then he went and started looking for her. Is that
Mm.
possible? Yeah, I think it's possible.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if he went in, if he did that and fixed everything up and walked out the front door as the deputies arrive in and comes around the back, it's like a cartoony kind of mishap. But it's the possibility they could have just missed each other. In which
Mhm.
case, then the deputy would have got there. The deputy would have looked through the thing, and there would be no rug strange, and there would be no upturned Christmas tree. So it could be
Right.
that they've like sliding doors. They've just slightly missed each other as one's gone out the back, the other
Mhm.
one's walked around the side or something. I mean, it's unlikely, but is it a possibility? Yes. Or
Yeah.
the deputy's got his timings wrong. Because if we know that he was at
Yeah.
work, Greg was at work, and we know it takes him a certain amount of time to come home, we know he would have arrived at home at least 2:45, 6:50. And then
Right.
how long did it take him to wander around the house, not see her, and then leave? It's probably going to be more than 10 minutes. And then the deputy
Mhm.
might not have got there as early as he said he did. It might have just been that he's mistaken.
It's very possible.
Because
Yeah.
obviously Greg hasn't killed her because Greg was at work at the time that she was screaming.
Mhm. And it would take him roughly about 30 to 40 minutes to drive from his
There you
work
go
in
then.
Napa
Yeah. Yeah.
down to the
To
home in
home.
Rodeo.
So he's going to be arriving there at least, let's say, if he's driving a bit quick, like 10 to 7. So if the deputy gets there at
Mhm.
7, then they're going to see each other, surely. Unless he literally just walks
Exactly.
in, takes a glimpse around everywhere, stands everything back up and goes straight out the door again. But the chances are
Mhm.
not. So I would question really the deputy's timing.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think which is strange because in this like usually if this is the case, you would
Mm.
say, "Oh, the deputy has to have his time right,"
Yeah, you would.
and
Yeah.
it normally would.
Yeah.
But knowing where Greg was, and knowing that he
Yeah.
was at work, and knowing how long it would take for him to get
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
it makes sense that he is probably more accurate with his time. Is it
Yeah.
possible that the deputy did? Oh, here's the other thing: if the deputy did get there at 6:55, wouldn't Greg have noticed his
Yeah, of
car?
course.
Right?
Yeah, of
He would have.
course.
So he'd be like, okay, something's not right,
Yeah.
and so
And wouldn't
then
you have gone
he
and
would have
found the
mentioned that.
deputy? If you
Hmm.
got there and
Yeah.
that happened, you'd remember there's a deputy's car outside. You would have gone and seen the deputy and say, "Hey, look, this is really weird, but my girlfriend's not home." I mean, surely it's a bit strange that they didn't cross paths.
Right. It is very strange.
Hmm.
But in an odd sort of way, I kind of agree with you where it's like I kind of believe Greg's timeline over the deputies, which is
Yeah, which
it goes
wouldn't
against the
normally be the
grain.
case. Yeah,
Right.
because only
Exactly.
just purely because we got him at work at the time that he's at work, and the fact that we know it's going to take him at least, let's say, at least 25 minutes if he's driving
Hmm.
fast, which he's got no reason to be absolutely gunning it home. So as far as he's concerned, it's a normal day. So he's just driving home. So if it's going to
Right.
take him
Right.
half an hour, 45 minutes, then he's going to probably be around half an hour.
Hmm. No, you're absolutely right. So
Mm,
I mean, it's
weird.
strange. Regardless, it's very strange.
Very. Yeah, it is.
Now, back to the polygraph. The polygraph was given by Sergeant Gardella, who noted that Greg had lied on several occasions during the polygraph test because he gave quote unquote heavy responses. I'm not sure what heavy responses mean,
No, I'm not either.
but there was something about it. He was like, okay, he's not telling the truth because of heavy
Mm.
responses. Now, Gardella would determine that Greg did not answer the following questions truthfully. Okay. Did you have someone pick up Leona from the apartment? Do you know where she is? Did you see Leona on the day she left? Was Leona pregnant? Are you
What's that got to do with
responsible for her
anything?
pregnancy? We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. It's just strange. It's a strange
Yeah,
thing to just ask,
it
just
is.
out of the. Tell you what, I'd love to have Lisa Ribicoff on our show for that. She's a polygraph
Hmm.
expert. I would love to ask her what what kind of thing they would be doing. What are they trying to gauge from this? Because she would be brilliant to talk to about this.
Yeah. I mean, just from these lines of questionings,
Yeah, you can
it
see what they're
seems
trying
like
to.
they're
Yeah,
they're going out, okay, you're
yeah,
responsible for this.
yeah,
Was she pregnant and you didn't want to deal with it and you got rid of
yeah,
her?
yeah.
That's obviously what they're
Weird.
going for.
Yeah,
So it is
exactly. It's
very,
strange.
very, yeah. Now, because of this polygraph and the questions that he answered, he ended up getting re-interviewed by investigators. He would continue to deny that he had any knowledge of Leona's disappearance or her whereabouts. He would also deny that he had seen Leona that day and would deny that she was pregnant and that he would have been responsible for any potential pregnancy. So
Okay.
he flat out denied all of it.
Okay.
Now, investigators would learn that Leona did have somewhat of a complicated dating life. So this is where things kind of get a little murky, I guess. While
Hmm.
Greg Veo was her boyfriend, Leona was also engaged to a man named Barney Pfizer.
What? So she's got another. She's got a
She
fiance.
is she is engaged, okay? And according to Leona's mother, Barney, who was serving in Vietnam at the time, was aware Leona was going on dates with other men while he was in Vietnam, and he was okay with it. So they actually had been engaged for a
Really?
while.
He
Yeah,
was okay with her seeing other people while he was in Vietnam.
that's what Eileen says.
Interesting.
And I mean, so already just kind of very, very weird situation. All right. I mean, I could kind of see like if Barney's like, you know what, I'm here in Vietnam, you need to like go on with your life and don't worry about me, that type of situation. But like, would you be okay if you had a fiance and they were seeing other people while you're away? No, you can't.
Well, I don't know. They're a fiance for a reason, aren't they? Because you want to get married. So, I mean, I don't know how many people would be. I mean, some people would, but I don't know how many people would be okay with being engaged to somebody and that somebody being able to get it on with other people while you're not there. Surely,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're writing to each other or what, emailing each other. Oh, hi, honey, what did you do today? Oh, well, me and Bob went out for dinner. It's just weird. That's a really weird
It is.
situation.
It
I
is.
no, I don't know about that. I
And then
wonder.
the thing about it too is while maybe Barney said, yeah, it's okay if you go on dates with other people, I kind of feel like Leona like took this to the extreme a little bit. So so she was dating Greg Veo, and Eileen said that he was simply a boy that she was dating in Barney's absence. Okay, so Leona and Greg did start dating earlier in that year, but they had broken up for about 2 months around September of 1969. Now, during that time, Leona had started dating another guy named Bob Warner.
I said Bob, didn't I? There's always a Bob involved.
There's always a Bob involved. Now, Leona would end their relationship after a few dates because of his possessive attitude. Okay. Now, this obviously angered Bob, who would then call up the Roberts home numerous times while he was out of town.
Oh, he's dodgy.
Yeah, so he left California. He went to Chicago for a little bit for work.
Yeah.
When he arrived to California, Bob would show up at the home demanding an explanation from Leona. Now, in interviewing Bob, he stated that he had met Leona during the first week of October through his foster sister. He stated that Barney was still in town when they met, but he refused to go out with Leona until the fiance was out of town, which would happen a week later.
Hmm.
On their second date, now this is from Bob, on their second date at a private residential party, he and Leona were intimate. He said that Leona was the aggressor and that they slept. This is what he told investigators. This is exactly as he says. They slept together throughout the night and had intercourse numerous times. He told investigators that Leona was very promiscuous and aggressive, and that she was well versed in the art of sexual intercourse.
Okay.
Let's just remember, Leona's 16 years old.
Yeah.
These men that she's dating are much older.
That sounds to me like something a paedophile would say. That sounds to me like
It
it's I'm pushing
does.
blame onto her because I don't want you to look at me thinking that there's anything wrong with me. So I'm blaming her because
Mm-hmm.
she's the one that made me have sex with her. She was being
She made
promiscuous.
me.
She wore a skirt that was too short. She was behaving
Mm-hmm.
inappropriately that made me have sex with her. I mean, I don't. He's coming across straight away as the oddball. Straight away, he's
Oh,
strange.
100%.
Strange.
100%. Now, he also would tell investigators that the two of them had spoken about marriage and had planned on getting married in June of 1970 in a double wedding ceremony. He told investigators that he believed that he had a lasting relationship with Leona. This is people. They went on
This
2
is
dates.
crazy. That's
There was
crazy.
a very short period of time. So this is a guy who's throwing blame on a victim. He is he's saying that he's going to marry this girl,
Yeah.
that they had
She's
a lasting
16.
relationship. They just met. Yeah. So there's
Yeah, it's
something
weird.
obviously wrong with this Bob character.
Yeah. There is definitely something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Dodgy
Bob
Bob.
advised that around very dodgy Bob. Now, Bob advised that around November 13th, Leona had told him that she had missed a period and felt that she was pregnant.
Oh no.
He did have to leave town on November 4th to go to Chicago for business. So she called him in Chicago and talked about their wedding plans. He then called her 2 or 3 days later and was informed by her father that she was out for the evening. He became very concerned and called her back, only to find out that she was still on a date with another guy. So now she's dating some other guy. Bob doesn't seem like a guy that he would be too happy with her dating someone else
No, that's right. He sounds very
or going out on a
possessive.
date with. Yeah,
Yeah. It doesn't
is
sound to me like
very
he would be
possessive.
right with that. No.
Exactly. Now, he did return home at Thanksgiving and contacted Leona for an explanation as to why she was dating other men while he was gone. Because of this, they decided to postpone the wedding for approximately 2 years so that they would have a chance to grow up. This guy's crazy.
This guy is crazy. He is nuts.
Leona, I mean, just from what I've told you, Leona has no interest in this guy.
No. No.
Beyond just going on a date with him. There is no long-lasting relationship. There's no way they're talking about marriage, right?
Also, I mean, most women you've had that one date that's turned out, I mean, men probably too, but I can only speak from a woman's point of view. But we've all had that one date that started off with the guy being a nice guy and ended up being that he was being a bit creepy and a bit weird. And you kind of just like nip it in the bud quick because the guy's a bit not what you thought. This guy, he's definitely that guy, isn't he? He's definitely the guy that probably started out being, oh, actually, he's a really nice guy, to then being like, whoa, hang on. He's like super possessive and there's no way this is going anywhere else. It sounds to me like this sort of escalated quite quickly for him. So it sounds to me like he would not be happy with her dating other people as well as him. I can't see it.
No, not at all. Now, he would then leave town again to go to Texas. And while he was in Texas, he would once again call Leona. Now, he was advised by Leona's mother, Eileen, that she was on yet another date and her whereabouts should not be of no concern to him. Good job. Good job.
Good job.
Because it's not. It's no concern of his.
No, it's not.
Now, he became very angered over this call, and he returned to California on December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
He called Leona, and she was cold to him.
It's her fault again. Her fault again.
Fault.
So she was cold to him. She was mean to him. Poor him.
Poor Bob.
Poor old Bob.
He then went to the house and demanded an explanation. He would admit to becoming very angry and saying things he should not have, when he was told that her activities were none of his business. Now, he would tell investigators that the last time he saw or had anything to do with Leona was on December 2nd. He further advised that upon his arrival in California, his sister said that she had received a phone call from Leona saying that she had gotten her period and that there was no pregnancy to worry about. Okay?
Mm.
So now we have Bob. So Bob is obviously a person that we want to,
Yeah.
keep our
Lock
eye
up.
on, right?
Mm.
Or lock up, absolutely. Now, on December 28th, 1969, this would have been 18 days after her disappearance, a man scouring the shores of Bolinas Lagoon for driftwood to use in sculptures found the nude body of a deceased female. The body was located a mile and a half north of Bolinas, California, on Bolinas Olima Road.
That's easy for you to say.
Exactly. It was not visible from the road, as the body laid 6 feet below the road level. The legs were tucked in underneath, and her hair was caught on bushes towards the road, which indicates that she had been rolled from the road downhill towards the lagoon. Now, the body was described as being in an advanced stage of decomposition.
Oh.
It was so bad that the ridge detail on the hands were so bad that prints could not be taken to identify the body.
Mm.
There was some indication that her hands and feet may have been bound at some point. Investigators would find that the victim was wearing a class of 1963 Napa High School ring with the initials JAS.
Mm.
As this was in Marin County, investigators were not initially aware of Leona's missing persons case, so the victim was originally listed as a Jane Doe. However, once Contra Costa authorities learned about the body being found, they would contact Marin County investigators to determine if the body was Leona Roberts. Investigators would once again interview Eileen and were told that Leona did have a Napa High School ring that had belonged to a woman named Judith Ann Threadgall, who lived
Oh,
across
so
the
that
street.
makes the obviously the initials make sense.
Well, it does because her maiden name was Judith Ann Steen.
Right. Okay.
So JAS was
JAS. Yeah.
Judith Ann Steen.
Yeah.
Now, once Judith was able to confirm that Leona did have that ring, dental records were requested, which quickly gave investigators confirmation that the body was Leona Roberts.
Hmm.
All right. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be the part that's going to really frustrate you, because the following day, a preliminary coroner's report would come back as inconclusive to the cause of death, stating that
Yep,
they
I
would need to
understand
wait
that.
for the toxicology screening. That makes perfectly
Yeah.
great sense.
Yeah, makes total
Now,
sense.
a vaginal smear was taken at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and no spermatozoa was found.
Okay.
Okay, which is not shocking, but doesn't mean it wasn't there. They just didn't see it in their review. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the first thing that's going to frustrate you is that these smears would ultimately be thrown away.
Oh no. Every damn time.
So once they determined that there was no sperm on
They just threw it away.
on these smears, they just throw it away. So it gets disposed of.
No. Why don't people keep? There should be a law that you have to keep specimens taken from bodies for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there
Right.
should be some kind of law that states that. This happens
Now,
too
I
much.
understand that they have no idea about DNA back then, right?
No,
They
I
don't know
understand
that
that.
this can be
No.
tested. They don't. I know
No.
that they don't. Hey, if we save this for another 30 years, we can
Yeah, I
retest
realise
it, and
that.
maybe we can find. But at the same point, you don't. This is evidence, regardless of
That's
if
right.
you
Yeah,
find something enough. It's still evidence,
100%.
and you
It's
should
evidence.
keep it.
Yes.
You should keep it.
I agree.
Okay. Now, on January 14th, 1970, so this was just a few weeks later, the coroner would issue an updated report. Now, the results of pathology showed no drugs or alcohol in the victim system. it should be. It's interesting. One thing I did find interesting is while they did not find any alcohol in the system, it did actually have like a blood alcohol content in her system. It was like 0.7%, which is
Yeah, so
higher than the legal
there
limit.
was some, yeah, but not
But it
enough
was
for.
it's from decomposition. So it was
Yeah,
from
yeah.
decomposition. It wasn't from actual alcohol use. Now, once again, they did test for spermatoza. That came back as negative.
Mm,
They did find a foreign body, which turned out to be nylon, was found in the tissue of the left wrist.
okay.
There was also necrosis of tissue in both found in both wrists, as well as ankles.
So that sounds like she
Now,
was tied up.
exactly, the coroner reported that this gave a slight,
Yeah,
he said, slight suggestion of binding of
yeah,
ankles and wrists
yeah,
with nylon.
yeah.
Now, a viral infection of an unidentified species was found to be present in the brain, lungs, heart, liver, and kidneys. There was evidence of terminal aspiration that could probably, this is what the coroner said, there was evidence of terminal aspiration that could probably be linked to the virus.
Okay.
It was the opinion of the coroner that the victim probably died as a result of the infection,
Mm,
and that subsequent to her death, the body was placed where it was found. So
okay.
her cause of death
They're
was
saying it's
ruled
a bacterial
as a
infection.
viral infection. Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay.
So, and they think what they thought was they did find that that Leona, that the body there was a surgical scar.
Mm.
So she did have a surgery, and so the coroner saw that and said, okay, it was probably an infection from this prior surgery.
Well, it depends when the surgery was carried out. If the surgery was carried out years before, she's not going to be
Hmm.
suffering from a viral infection years, and then it would probably be a bacterial infection, not a viral infection. I think, if I'm right. The other thing that I think is very interesting, the difference between America and England, and if you are not American and you might not know this, but coroners in America, you don't have to be a certified doctor, you don't have to be a
Hmm.
certified like lawyer, you don't have to, you could literally work in a library and then be elected as the county coroner.
Right.
Whereas in England, to become a coroner, you have to be have been a practicing doctor for a certain amount of time, or you have, it used to be that you were able to be like a solicitor or a barrister or something like that. So you had to have legal
Right.
training. I think that's stopped now. I think it's only doctors to be a coroner. You can be a coroner's assistant, which would carry out all of the investigatory work for the coroner on behalf of the coroner. And then they submit reports to the coroner, and the coroner then holds that in court because the coroner is the legal person to do so. So it's
Right.
always to me a bit confusing in America when you have, it says that the coroner's decision is this, because I think, well, okay, but the coroner must be getting their information from the ME, because a coroner isn't an ME. You couldn't have a coroner that's got
Mm.
no pathological skills whatsoever then giving you that kind of information, because they don't have, they're not qualified for that. So the coroners in
Right.
America are getting the information from the people that are qualified for that. So I
Yeah.
find it really interesting when they say that, because the ME must have issued a report to the coroner for them to make that decision. So it's coming from a highly
Yeah.
qualified person.
You think so? Like
You would hope
so
so.
I know who the so there are two different coroners who did the reviews. The first one was
Mm,
done by James Manwaring. The second one, which we're just talking about now, is by Donovan Cook.
mm.
Unfortunately, I don't know what their um, level of education is. I don't know
I
what
would like to.
if they
It'd be
are.
interesting to see what their background is and what, you know, because I don't know, it just seems strange to me that, I mean, I get that, yeah, she may have had, obviously the toxicology and stuff doesn't lie, the facts don't lie. So if the ME and the people that
Mhm.
are carrying out the pathologist that's carrying out the autopsies is looking at this and going, well, we found this pathogen, or we found this kind of disease in her brain and in her heart, and in it's affecting that. I'd be interested to know exactly what that is. Is that something that could have infected the body and the soft tissue um, post mortem, or is that something
Yes.
that would have been from, because if she has had previous surgery, she's not going to be living with a bacterial infection for years. So if she had that when she was like
viral.
13, so she's not going to have that when she's like 13 years old.
But here's the thing, with the viral infection spread post-mortem, I don't think it would, right? Because
depends how quick it's going, and depends how quick after death, if that's the case. If it is something that spreads after death, could it have been spread very quickly in the maybe in the like 2 days? Is it something that's going to spread that quickly, or is it something that's going to take time? Because it's very quickly done, isn't it? You think about it. Your head, your body is connected with via your blood system. So your circulatory system quickly can get blood from like your feet to your head very, very quickly. So is there a chance that this body has been carried around her body just before she's died? And then obviously she's died and it's there present in it.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that it was something that? She'd literally just caught it and it hadn't actually had any effect on her just yet?
It's true.
Could it be that?
Yeah. So Donovan Cook, this is the coroner
second
who
one.
did the second one. So this was the one that was on January 14th. He is a medical doctor. He was both a physician as well as a surgeon.
So he is highly qualified to be a coroner and to talk about that kind of stuff. He's a physician and a surgeon. So he's going to know, he's going to know the human anatomy like the back of his hand. Mm-hmm. So you should be able to trust what somebody at that level of education is saying.
No,
compared
absolutely.
to someone like me who would be elected as a coroner and go, well, this is interesting.
So, I mean, it's strange, though. It is strange that, yes, I completely believe that she had some sort of viral infection. Yes. But it's to say that she probably died because of it. I don't know. It's really strange. This is the other thing that I found really weird because so you mentioned we said that the body was in advanced stages of decomposition, right? The coroner would estimate that Leona had died 4 to 7 days prior to her body being discovered. This would leave a span of 11 to 14 days that she was alive and missing.
Wow.
So the coroner's saying, so she was alive for almost 2 weeks prior to her death. So
alive but missing.
Alive but missing.
Yes. Interesting.
Now, because it was ruled that it was the viral infection that killed her, the manner of death was not ruled as a homicide.
And I can understand that. But then I would be like, well, hang on, what about the wrist, the injuries to the wrist and the feet? If it was just foot or just a wrist, then you could say that. But it's both, and the fact that a body has been found where it was.
Yeah, and she was found nude.
Yeah.
So this was a sexually motivated crime.
Yeah. Well, you say that. You say it was sexually motivated, but was it? Were her clothes removed to remove any evidence? Was it that they're thinking if we just strip her clothes off, there's going to be no? I know they weren't thinking forensically back then. They weren't thinking about forensic evidence such as like DNA and stuff. But were they maybe thinking if they strip everything off of her, then it's going to delay the identification, or it's going to stop anything of theirs transferring to her? Is it? It might not have been sexually motivated. It might have been anger. Could have been a frustration.
No, that's true. But I would have to question if you take someone for 11 to 14 days, you have them bound. This isn't. It's obviously not for money because there's no ransom. No ransom call. What other reasons would there be?
I think
if it was something where someone was angry and they were like, you know what, if I'm going to have to teach you a lesson, exactly, they wouldn't keep you around for 2 weeks.
They might if they're torturing her.
Well, that's true, but there's no signs of torture though.
Well, but the body's at a bad state of decomposition.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, it doesn't have to be physical torture. It could have been mentally torturing. This could be somebody who's like completely lost their shit and is like, look, I can't have you treated me really badly. You said we were going to be together forever. It's just, I mean, obviously I don't know. I wasn't there, but I'm just trying to think of it as like, why would somebody keep you alive for 2 weeks and keep you bound?
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing is, in cases of rape, it doesn't necessarily have to be intercourse. There may not necessarily have to be sperm or semen located on her body, because there are cases where people have not, used their own body parts to do that kind of stuff. She could have been raped using anything. This could have been an awful case of her being tied up and being tortured, not tortured. Do you know what I mean? Like not physically beaten or anything like that. There is that, because true. Obviously the body was in a state of decomposition, in that they couldn't even get fingerprints. So would bruising be showing? Would anything else like that kind of thing be showing? Maybe not.
That's true.
I don't think this can be determined as not a homicide, but I don't think it can be determined as 100% a homicide. But likely, I would say 99% it's likely to be a homicide.
Right, exactly. So
she didn't get naked and die of natural causes there.
She did not, no. So Leona's, none of her clothes have ever been found. Her purse has never been found. Those are all gone missing. There's interesting things about this case. Obviously, there's a lot of people that would be good suspects.
Okay.
Even Greg. So let's go back to Greg real quick. So Greg, even though we say he had an alibi, and we know he couldn't have been there at the time, he had some really strange things going on that evening. So I mentioned that he started driving around looking for Leona. One of the stops that he made, he actually stopped at cousin's house, who they knew who Leona was. They were aware that he was dating her. And now, according to this cousin, he did not make any mention of Leona or her being missing or him not being able to find her at all. He was only there for 10 or 15 minutes. Didn't say one thing about her. Never said, hey, have you seen her? Have you heard from her?
That's odd.
So that's very, very odd to me. This is another thing that you're gonna have to, I don't know how I'm gonna put it. One other person who was interviewed and was contacted by investigators was the landlord of Greg Veo's apartment. Now, he would tell investigators that the previous tenant was a man who recently divorced and needed a place to stay. Okay. At the time, he had a girlfriend who drove a 1965 to 1967 blue station wagon.
Oh, okay.
So is it possible that
he came back?
Old tenant, he came back. He has a key to the place. He came back.
Yeah.
But you think if it was him, I don't have any more information on this guy, unfortunately. But if you think it was him, that would be a pretty open and shut case.
Yeah.
And that you would think that there would be more information about this person being potentially a suspect. I would think he would be a very strong suspect. You would have to at least interview him, find him and interview him and find out what he was
100%. Yeah.
See if he has alibi.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's nothing. I haven't found anything else about this guy besides the fact that the landlord, when he was interviewed by investigators, this is what they told him.
See, that's the thing, isn't it? We've done so many cases where a piece of evidence about somebody has been mentioned and then not followed up. And that's a worrying thing. Right. Like, did this get mentioned and they didn't bother following it up? Did they follow it up and they just discounted him because they couldn't find him, or they found him and exonerated him out of this and it's all fine? It'd be interesting to know, but then why would he come back? Why would he come back and then just like take her? He doesn't know her. Why would he come back to his old address? And I don't know.
I don't know either. It's
Obviously,
very
some kind of
strange.
struggle has ensued in the house. If we can go by what Greg's saying, obviously something has
Mhm.
happened in the house, that the Christmas tree was over and the rug has been pulled. We know she was there
Yes.
because her clothes were there, so we know that she
Yes.
was there. Um,
And
so
we
is it
have
possible
we
this?
have the witness that heard. We had a
That's right,
witness
her
that heard
screamings.
screaming.
Yeah. So we know that she
So
was there,
something
and obviously
obviously
something has
happened.
happened. Yeah. And so
Mhm.
then you're looking at, okay, so if this guy comes back to his old house, he's got a key, he lets himself in and unexpectedly finds her there. She starts screaming because obviously
Mhm.
this guy she doesn't know has come in. He grabs her and hits her or something, and then she's dead. And he's like, shit, what do I
Mhm.
do? Do I just leave her or do I just take her? I mean, I don't know why you would take her. Nobody saw him bundling her into the back of the station wagon, or nobody saw her
No, we had
being bundled into a car.
no. We have the one person that saw the man
Yeah, just
in
saw
the
him.
station wagon walking back and
Yeah.
forth. She said it looked like he was putting stuff in the car, but she never saw him with anything in his
Yeah.
hands.
And he's going to be noticeably carrying a body. It's going to be noticeable if he's carrying a carpet, a body wrapped in a
Hmm.
carpet out. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense in that,
Yeah,
that's happened. It's a really
it's
weird one because something's missing. I think something is missing from the stories here, either from the woman's
mhm.
story or there's something that just doesn't it doesn't make sense. If she ran out of that house and was screaming, there's no noise
Mhm.
of any cars speeding off down the road to try and get her. There's no arguing. There's no screaming running down the road. So by the sounds of things, she was silenced in the house. So going from
Yes.
screaming and running, 'cause she said she heard someone running.
Mhm.
It's gone from that to silence.
Yeah.
But then they're saying that the deputy was not very long after. So he's got a short window of time to get her out of the house without anyone seeing.
If I think the deputy had to have arrived after Greg
Yeah, I
was there,
agree. And
because if
also,
he's saying
what did the deputy do? Just looked through the window. He
no,
didn't
he went
actually.
inside.
So
No,
where did he went everywhere.
yeah, so he went in through the back door because the back door is
Yeah,
still
was
unlocked,
open. Yeah.
which is strange too because
You think
this is
Greg would
why
lock it before he left?
locked it exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say hypothetically Greg gets there before the deputy, right?
Mm.
Greg goes in through the back door, finds it unlocked. He looks around. He finds the Christmas tree knocked over, the rug bunched up, clothes out of place that shouldn't be there. He fixes the tree. He fixes the rug. He looks around, doesn't find her. Then says, "Okay, I need to go and you know go and start
So
looking
he
for her."
leaves
So
out the
then he
front
leaves,
door.
locks it up, turns the
Deputy
light
arrives.
off.
Yeah.
Deputy arrives. He knocks on the neighbor's door, talks to the neighbor, comes back down. Front door locked, windows locked, shut, locked. Goes to the back door, finds it unlocked
Oh,
still.
yeah. Okay.
Walks inside, finds it, nothing's wrong. Tree's up, rugs in its place. Leona's smock is still on the couch. He didn't
Mm.
know, he didn't mention any pants or anything being there. So is it
And
so then
Greg's already gone
so
by
yeah.
this point because
Hmm.
obviously he didn't see each other. So Greg's already gone. Because I was just wondering, I wonder if she could have been in the house somewhere. Could that person have but then that person would have to have come back to get rid of her. So that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. If Greg came home and found her dead or hurt in the house, he would have called 911. So that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
She wasn't there when he got home. So we need to go from between the screams that the neighbor heard to the time that Greg gets home, and nobody saw
Mhm.
anything. Nobody saw anyone carrying a woman or carrying a huge something covered up. I mean, it's difficult to carry a dead body. It's
Yeah.
dead weight. They aren't just like they're sleeping, they're completely relaxed dead weight. It's not an easy thing. And I know obviously he's a big man and he could just scoop her up, but surely somebody would see that. It's not like he can put her in his pocket. It
Yeah.
would be quite evident if you
So
looked out the window and saw a man carrying a woman to his car.
right.
Is there back access to the house? Like, is there a way that the car could get around the back of the
Like
house?
like an alley?
Yeah, or a side that you could put something in your car without someone seeing. Because I know that woman said she was looking out of the window, but she was not looking out of the window for the whole time. And she can only see out of her window in one spot. So is there a way that you could access the house and
Okay,
not be seen?
So Tormey Avenue is actually like a cul-de-sac. So it dead end. It's a very, very short street.
Okay.
Now the question is, I don't know if I had to guess, it's looking like the home. These are probably the same homes that were there in 1969. Complete
Yeah.
guess, but I'm guessing it because there is still a 749 A and B. I see the steps that she was talking about. 749B. It looks like the actual door to the residence might be on the side of the house, and then then you'd go through a little gate, and then there's another in the back. There is no alley, but let me see. I would say that there's probably between the house and where the road is, there is maybe 4 to 5 feet between those. More, at least 5 feet, 5 or 6 feet, I'll say, between the house and where the road starts, which is completely open. Now he would be able to get whoever got her out would be able to get the body out and pull down this little like walkway between two houses.
Okay.
Without being seen, as long as no one's looking out the neighbor's windows. The neighbor, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 windows that face that little walkway in between these two houses.
So the chances are somebody's going to see something, surely. You'd think so, but then I suppose if no one's home,
you would. I mean, because
yeah.
I mean, there's a house directly across. Well, there's a house that you can see the back of the house, and it looks straight into this Tormey Avenue. There is, like I said, there's a house right next to it. There's probably less than 10 feet between these two houses. I'm assuming that the neighbor who saw the blue station wagon, the next door neighbor, I'm assuming from what I see, she's probably in the house right next door, which I was just mentioning. So it's like 10 feet between the two houses. That's it's interesting. I mean, you would think that anyone carrying or dragging a body into a car would be spotted at some point. But that's the only way they would be able to get out. There's no alley, so it's not like they're taking them out the back way. There's a bunch of houses behind them, so it's not like they're gonna be. Yeah, there's no real good way to get a body out of there.
No, it's a small area. It's gonna be a busy job to try and get a person out like that without somebody seeing something.
Now it was December, so it would have been dark.
Dark, maybe then.
Like I said, I'm looking at Street View right now. I don't know how things have changed. There are no street lights on Tormey Avenue.
So it's dark. I mean, I think you'd have to go for this case, I think particularly, you'd have to go there. And I think you'd have to physically look at this space and this area to see what the likelihood of being seen would be. It's interesting. It's very interesting. But I think it was dark. I don't know. I don't think it was Greg. I think it's strange that Greg didn't mention she was missing. But I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Bob is more of a worry to me or the boyfriend, the fiance.
Yeah. So at this point, we have talked about some suspects.
Yeah.
We normally would talk about them at this point, but we're not going to do it in this case because next week, we're going to get into part 2.
This is your however moment. However, we will talk about suspects, but there's a whole part 2. So there's more to this.
There is.
There's lots more to this.
There is more to this story.
Okay.
And
more victims?
There are more victims.
Oh, okay.
So you gotta stick with us. And if you've gotten this far with us, you got to listen to part 2, and that's
Yeah,
going to be
how many
coming next
people have
week.
just gone, no! No, I have to wait till next week. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this changes things.
This changes things. So, I mean, from this case here, you think, okay, Greg, Bob, those are 2 obvious
Yeah.
characters.
Greg Bob and boyfriend, I would say, or Greg Bob and fiance.
Yeah. I will tell you now, I don't think it's either one of them.
Okay.
So
Interesting. Well, thank you. I'm now looking forward to part 2 very much. I didn't know it was going to be a part 2, so I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Well,
Thank you. That
I
is
will tell
really
you
interesting.
it is very interesting. I will tell you this. So when I started looking into this case, this wasn't the case I was going to start with. This is not the case I was doing.
Okay. I hate it when that
But
happens.
it turned out to be this is where this story has to start.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have, and I find this very interesting. This whole what occurred around this time in this area,
Okay.
and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where this goes and what you think.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you. I shall look forward to next week's episode then. I'm sure. Okay, well, at this point in the show, it's time to check out those that we love. It's the dumb criminals.
Hey, Captain Stupid Poopy Pants. Use a dummy.
Okay, so this week is actually multiple dummies. Axe-wielding robbers raided a jewelry shop, okay? They raided the jewelry shop in just 10 seconds. Okay, they stormed a jewelry store and wiped out over £20,000 worth of gold jewelry, right?
Whoa.
A lot.
Wow, okay.
So there were 3 of them, 3 masked men. They raided Jean Aran's jewellers in Leicester in November of 2015, and they were wielding axes and threatened the members of staff there, who were understandably completely frightened to death. Now, the CCTV footage captured them smashing the glass cabinets and grabbing handfuls of bracelets, earrings, necklaces, anything that they could get. What happens is when the security goes off, the shop starts to fill up with a deterrent smoke to try and stop the robbers from carrying out their stuff. So then on the CCTV, you can see them running out of the shop, jumping into their car, which was a Nissan Qashqai, which was waiting outside for them, and speed off down the road. Okay. Right. Now, the problem was, I've watched a video of this, and it's just crazy. The problem was they left 2 of the axes at the scene, okay? Now, the axes at the scene actually had price tags on them from the store where they bought them 24 hours before, okay?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, not only that. The car that they used was abandoned. Police found the car and recovered the car. And in the car, they had left the sat nav, which got them back to one of the robbers' home address. So they just clicked home and it told them where the robber lived.
Unbelievable.
So they carried out this really brilliantly planned robbery in that they got in and got away with 20 grand's worth of stuff in 10 seconds. Yeah, good. That's really good. Unfortunately, they left the axes behind, which gave away where they bought them from, so they could be identified via that. And then the car that they had used, which was probably stolen, also had the sat nav in it, which got them home. So the 3 men, it was Hassan Amir, who was 18, Awali Madar, who was 23, and Hasnan Golzar, who was 18. They were jailed for a total of 21 years.
No.
You just can't believe the stupidity, can you? You just can't believe it.
It's amazing. It's like, they did such a great job, but they completely fucked it up.
Yeah, completely. And in the most stupid way. I mean, they left in their haste, left the tags on them. How stupid.
So I wonder if it was that theft deterrent or whatever, the smoke that released.
Yeah, maybe.
If that helped, maybe they put it down, then they couldn't find it.
Yeah,
How
probably.
brilliant is that? If that's what happened.
Great
where it's like-
idea. Yeah.
It was like, oh crap!
But-
I put down the axe now. I can't find it.
But the sat nav was just stupid. It's just
Do we know if that
stupid.
was their car? Was that one of their cars, or had it been stolen?
No, I think it was. I
Do we know?
think it must have been stolen. It must have been, because otherwise they would have recovered it
So-
and found out who it belonged to. wouldn't they?
Exactly. So if it was stolen, then they took the time to actually get the sat nav set up.
Yeah, with their home
And
address to get
connected.
them back home. Yeah,
No. Come
stupid,
on,
isn't it?
guys.
Absolutely stupid.
That's why you should be more like me and love map
And love
not
map.
have to use sat nav.
Yes, that's your lesson for this week, kids. Always use map.
Always use map, not sat nav. We'll get you caught.
Well, thank you for joining us. We will be back next week with part 2 of this episode. And in between then and now, you can catch us on all the socials. We'd love to hear from you. For now, be nice.
And bye.